Today's video, we are talking about 1 month milestones. And it's not just milestones for your baby, because when you get to 1 month, it's so exciting to, have your newborn get to that phase. But I feel like we also really need to celebrate the 1 month milestones as a mom. And I try to, you know what I mean? Because the first month, I think it's the hardest. At least in my opinion. They all have their own specific challenges, and every baby will be different. But so far, I am 2 for 2 on month 1 being very challenging. So as a mom, for our, month 1 milestones, for one, you made it a whole month with a baby, which is something to be celebrated. And I'm having to rock him this whole time. So if you hear labored breathing, it's him, not me. And he's just being frustrated if I stop moving. So I'm about to have the most ripped arms of my life in no time. But, it's not only that you managed to keep baby alive. Hey, can we lay like this? We'll see how long this lasts. But it's also, the first 2 weeks especially, you have a lot of healing you have to go through, and it can be so intense to have to care for another human, like one that needs you for everything, all the things, while your body is also trying to heal, because when you have instructions for that healing phase, we're supposed to just rest, not move, and, be as stationary as possible. But you find when you're caring for a tiny human that you can't just lay in bed all day, unless you have a ton of help. Some people do. I feel like most people don't. You know what I mean? We kind of are left to fend for it on our own, as parents. And it can be very challenging. So at that 1 month point, I feel like it's so exciting because for the most part, depending on how your birth went, for most people, once you hit that 1 month mark, a lot of your healing is done. Like I said, it's situation to situation. It's always going to be different. But I have found in both situations that I am in a dramatically different place by, month 1 than I was those first couple weeks. And it just frees up my ability to be able to do more. I can do more housework. I can do more basic tasks. I can do more cooking. I can do more diaper changes and it not be an issue. And so that is very much something to be celebrated. Also, I feel like about a month into postpartum, for the most part, a lot of the breastfeeding troubleshooting starts to balance out. Those first couple weeks, and I talked about it some in my 2 previous postpartum videos, talking about the first week of postpartum, which is just chaos. But once you hit that 1 month mark, for the most part, your milk supply has kind of figured out what does baby need on a daily basis. And I know for me, I find that I'm not getting overly engorged. I'm not, my supply is just much more regular. The first 3 weeks, if you haven't made it to the breastfeeding phase yet, the first 3 weeks, you will often leak milk all the time, kind of like all day long. If your baby cries, if your baby makes a couple sounds, your body hears it and will start producing milk and will essentially make a mess. So you'll go through about 4 shirts a day, unless you use those liners that you can put inside your bras to really catch a lot of that. Otherwise, you'll be doing a lot of outfit changes. But I'm to a point now at the 1 month mark to where it is very much feeling contained. That has really slowed down, and it takes a lot of stress off of you as a mom to have that balance out. Again, it'll always be different for everybody's situation. Everybody's breastfeeding journey is going to be unique, but I feel like they tend to have kind of a general flow if things are going well and progressing in a good fashion. So that's a big stress reliever when your milk supply balances out, you're not like a leaking mess. And one quick tip, if all of a sudden you feel, so one of those things, like when your baby cries, a lot of times, and you'll feel it, your milk will just kind of rush to save the day. And if you are not prepared for that in that moment, you don't want it to actually happen, all you have to do is apply pressure directly like over your nipple on both sides, because it's usually both sides that kick in, and just kind of hold it for like 15 seconds. And I find that that stops the flow. I did not know that my first pregnancy and postpartum, and it was leaking all the time, and it was rough. But I've been using that trick for the past 4 weeks, and it has been a lifesaver. So I highly recommend, and you'll know what I'm talking about when you get there. If you've never had a milk supply, if you've never, breastfed before, you get this all of a sudden like sensation of literally like they're starting to fill. And it takes a couple weeks to really get familiar with it, but you'll figure it out pretty quick. But if that comes at a time when you're not ready for it, or, baby's not actually ready to eat, or, whatever it may be, all you have to do is apply the pressure, and it saves a ton. So for moms, like I said, the healing is mostly kind of wrapping up or wrapped up. You'll still have some things going on for a few weeks, but it's not the super intense healing of the first couple weeks that really debilitate you and cut back your ability to do basic tasks, basic care, all the things. So that's a big one. Your milk supply is a big one. I also feel like for me, it's when my body, a lot of that like intense pregnancy swelling and like appearance starts to subside by month 1. That whole first month, I essentially still look pregnant to some extent. And that's totally normal. Like, don't panic. Don't feel like you have to like have your body back. And like your body just went through so many things. I do not like investigate the appearance of my body at all the first month, and neither should you. Like, just make sure you're feeling good, you're healing good, you're moving your body, just, general basic gentle functions. Like, you don't stress about the appearance, like not at all. But by month 1, like, starting now, I'm feeling like a lot of that general swelling, extra fluid, different things that, were there to help with pregnancy have started to balance out a little bit. And I'm starting to feel a little bit more like normal in my body, if that makes sense. I am not like where I was before pregnancy. I do not care to be. We are 1 month into postpartum. I would love to be back there, maybe 6-8 months from now. And that's a very realistic goal. That's something that I can work to achieve, and that's not stressful. And, you have to set your own goals, set your own pace, but your pace should not be extremely expedited. Like, your body just did like the most incredible thing ever. And you have to give yourself some grace and give your body some grace of how much work it just put in, all the things it had to build, all the things it had to do. But I feel like at that 1 month mark, like I'm starting to feel a little bit more normal in my body. I feel more balanced out. But I'm not at a point at 1 month where I'm doing workouts, where I'm doing anything intense other than just movement. So just general walks, getting outside. Taking care of a toddler and a baby, you're always on the move. So my biggest goal right now is just not to be stagnant. But I'm also giving my body more time before I add anything intense. And, you should really consider that too. You really have to be careful easing back into things in postpartum. Give your body grace. And it all depends on where you were before pregnancy, where you were during pregnancy. I try to just really ease into things, but always stay in kind of constant, just gentle movement, Keep your body moving and grooving, but don't stress it. Don't over push your boundaries. You really have to watch yourself because you're probably not getting great sleep. That's the next milestone for moms, is At 4 weeks, baby's not going to be sleeping through the night. Newborns have to eat like every 2 to 3 hours. During the day, he fusses and wants to eat even more often. I don't do a schedule. I've talked about that in some of my other videos, I think. I don't set schedules for a newborn. We just kind of go through the day and I read his signals and his cues, and when he's sleepy, we go to sleep. When he's hungry, he eats. When, you know what I mean? When he's fussy for no reason, it's probably a diaper change. You kind of start to just kind of figure out their signs. I do not stress, or this sweatshirt is so baggy on me today. I don't stress over a schedule. And, you know, you're at your own discretion of what you want to do, but I feel like newborns are not meant for a strict schedule. They're not meant to have strict routines. Like, they are trying to figure out what it's like to be in the world, to, you know, they think they're still part of your body. So having a schedule is just, I feel like is not realistic. But sleeping through the night is not going to be something your newborn does, nor should they. They need to eat. They have little teeny tiny stomachs and they need to eat all the time. But by 1 month in, I feel like we've kind of caught a nighttime rhythm. So if you were in those first like 3 weeks still, and you're feeling super overwhelmed, you're feeling like it's never going to change, it does. And it slowly just gets a little bit better and a little bit easier every week. And, you know, he and I are still waking up probably every 2 hours right now. And that sounds super intense, but we just wake up, like I'll hear him making his sounds of like fussing, and we will get up and I check his diaper first. And usually it needs changed because newborn diapers, they don't hold a lot. So they need changed pretty regularly. And so we'll do a diaper change, and then we do a feeding. And then as soon as I can get him to burp, he goes back to bed. And honestly, the hardest part of that entire routine is getting the burp sometimes, because you're tired, he's tired, it's the middle of the night, and sometimes it just takes a good minute to get it to happen. But I find that you want to keep trying until it does happen, because in my experience, if they don't burp, they end up having a lot of issues with spitting up, especially at this age. So even if you're like 5 minutes into trying and you still don't have a burp, I would try switching up your position, try walking around, try moving a little bit different, you know, just try some unique different positions and tricks, because it will honestly save you in the long run to just make it happen instead of just assuming it's not going to and just putting baby down, because they will likely be very uncomfortable and not sleep well anyways. That's just my 2 cents. And in my experience, it will save you some frustration. So those are the big milestones, I feel like, for mom, and they need to be celebrated. You know, we always celebrate baby's milestones, like baby's 1 month old. These are the things that are changing, and these are the things that are happening more. And you definitely see changes, you know, like he's starting to smile more, and they still don't do a whole lot. And most of the time they're just smiling because they pooped, you know, they're not smiling necessarily because of you, but I tell myself it's because of me. And sometimes I do think it is, but a lot of times it's like right after eating or pooping, you know, and I totally get it, you know, I would be the same. But they start to have those milestones, and each month, I feel like the first month, babies are just so strange, you know, they're not used to the world. Like that first week, their eyes look crazy, their skin goes crazy, all these things that they have to adapt to and change, and it just makes the first month really intense. But once you get to that 1 month point, and those things aren't going to be perfect at 1 month. Like he still has some little skin things he's working through at 1 month old, but his skin is much more balanced than it was those first few weeks. And his eyes are less crazy looking. They're starting to have color to them. They're not that like, they almost look like little aliens that first week. But I feel like you're just really starting to find a rhythm. And if this is your first time being a mom, or you're about to be a mom and you haven't been here, just know that I will argue with anyone. I mean, I haven't been past 2 years with a kid. I have a 2-year-old and I have a 1-month-old. But I think the first 3 months are the hardest out of the first 2 years. So take that for what you want. Every stage has its challenges, but I think the first 3 months where you're just readjusting your life and you're readjusting to a new baby, and new baby is trying to readjust to the world that they're brought into and their life. I think it's just all really intense there for a couple months. So as you go through these first 3 months, just celebrate every milestone for both baby and celebrate it for you, because you deserve to celebrate. I literally made myself a cheesecake yesterday because I was so excited, and my husband and I, we celebrated with a cheesecake. So have your celebrations because you deserve it.